Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name is Damien Bazzaio. This video is going to talk about railroading, what it is, why it's bad, and how to avoid it. Now, people talk about railroading all the time. Why am I railroading? What is railroading? Why is it bad? What is railroading? Basically, railroading is when the DM has a plan or a storyline or an encounter or a series of events that are going to proceed from A to B to C to D to E, etc. No matter what the player's actions or choices, the DM's just going to go A, B, C, D, E. It doesn't matter. The players have no say in what's going to happen. They're just along for the ride in the story. Which, if you're reading a book, that's how it works. The book is a long linear story. D&D is supposed to be a game. You're supposed to have choices and whatever. So now a railroad is not storylines. Having storylines is fine. A story on rails is basically, every published module that ever came is basically a story on rails because there's a certain set of events that have to happen, but there's also leeway in between those events where the players can choose things to get to the certain results that make their choices matter. That's the difference between a railroad and a story on rails, and as opposed to a sandbox, which is just players go wherever they want and they do whatever they want and their choices are the world. That's like my Westmarch game is ultimate agency. There's no railroading in Westmarch at all. They go wherever they want, they do whatever they want. The storyline is based on that. Whereas a railroad, I'm a DM, I have this grand story I want to tell, I have this world I want you to see my way, and I'm going to present it to you statically in this encounter, this encounter, this encounter. This person's going to talk to you. You can't go to the west. What's in the west? Oh, there's nothing in the west. You have to go north. Well, why not? It's a whole world. Why is there nothing in the west? Because I'm a DM and I didn't make anything in the west. I want you to go north where my story thought is. I'm forcing you to go there. That's railroading. That's railroading. That's not the same as I have a story blind. I have story points. I want you to hit them, but you can do whatever you want in between. That's where it's a very subtle thing. Because storylines are important. Obviously you want to have a storyline in your game. You're playing a story game. But you can't have your storylines be so potent, so ingrained in your head. You can't be married to your storylines to the point where player agency is not a thing. That can be a problem. If players don't have any choice in the story, you're not playing D&D. You're just listening to a person tell you a story. Like when the DM talks for 20 minutes about his world. He probably has a cool world and it sounds cool to listen to. When you're playing D&D, you want him to describe where you are. You want to go. Rather than describing the world, show them the world. Be like, here's, Along that vein, let's talk about some ways to avoid railroading. Now that we know what it is, not allowing choice, let's talk about some ways to avoid it. Now, the way I avoid railroading is I use plot points. I don't use storylines. You use plot points. You have, say, you have your party start in the town. They have to fight this orc in the hills. Then after they fight that orc, they find out that the orc works for this evil priest who lives in the mountains, who's doing this ritual for whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The what doesn't matter. But as opposed to me, forcing them to go fight that orc, and then after that fighting that orc, you have to now travel to this wizard, to this evil priest to fight them. I just give them the information. I give them the world. All the people they meet are talking about, oh man, that orc, I keep having problems with that orc. And this other guy, whatever, I don't care. They go do their own thing in the town. Somebody else will be like, oh man, I was attacked by an orc. My sister was killed by this orc, and whatever, they don't care. Then now so somebody else will be like, oh, there's a reward out for this orc for blah, 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 or the baron's going to give you whatever your wishes are for this orc. So instead of saying, oh, you're going to go fight this orc, just keep talking to them through NPCs no matter what they do. Whenever they want to go into the forest and look for pixies or whatever, let them do that. And the pixies, oh, these orcs, try to make everything you do relate to that storyline, that plot point you want them to hit. Eventually they'll go there. Eventually, if they don't, and sometimes they won't. They'll be like, no, we don't care about that orc. We don't give a shit. So we're gonna do our own thing, and they'll do it. You can just kind of, at a certain point, that orc's now gonna come at them. They didn't want to go to your plot point, but you kind of need that plot point to happen because that's your story. It's gonna that's how they find out about the evil priest. You might be able to drop the evil priest and skip the whole orc thing together if they really don't want to go fight that orc. You can kind of skip it, but. So now they haven't fought this orc. They don't care. They've just been talking to people. They've been wheeling around the forest. Now this orc's going to come find them and start messing with whatever it is they want to do, whatever it is they're trying to do. My orc now, my plot point orc that I need to have in my plot point, I'm not railroading them because they're doing whatever they want, but now I'm going to bring him to them, and his motivations are now going to affect them. He's gonna attack them or try to sabotage what they're doing. Somehow he's gonna get involved with a point where I need them to fight him. I can kind of steer them into fighting him without being like, oh, go fight this orc. It's like, oh, this. Eventually give them enough reasons to, God, that orc, I'm so sick of hearing about this orc, we're going to go kill this guy now. Then they made that decision. I didn't force them to it. And, like I said, you could even skip the orc and go right to the evil priest and do it a different way. But it's just, that's a difference of not railroading. Basically, think about it like a story. A railroad story is like going straight down a railroad, down a mountain on a line. Like, so when you say we got on a ski lift, you go up the ski lift, you're sitting on a ski lift, and you're going straight up the line. There's nowhere else to go. You're sitting on the ski lift. There's no way to get off. You can't jump off. It looks pretty. There's pretty scenery and stuff, and you're kind of enjoying the ride, but you're not doing anything. You're bored. However, when you get to the top of the mountain, you now have 17 different trails you can take to get to the bottom. You're still going to get to the bottom. Your next plot point's at the bottom of the mountain, or to the other side of the mountain, or to another ski lodge, whatever you have just several plot points going forward after you ski down whatever ski thing you do. You have pretty much open world of what you want to do. Now, if you think about plot points, would be like a slalom. If you ever see the skiers that slalom through the little two things to fly, little gate, they call them gates, the two little flags. You can ski down the mountain however you want, but you have to make it through each flag. Think of those as your plot points. Instead of having a big storyline right down the rails, stuck in the rails, let them give leeway between your plot points. They have to go through this gate to fight this orc. Once they do that, they're going to go fight this evil priest in the mountain, but that's the next gate. There's space in between where they can go wherever they want, do whatever they want. It doesn't matter what they do, because eventually they can't progress your story, the main story. They give them their side stories and all that, but the main story has to go through this next gate. That's the next plot gate. That's the next plot point. Now I like to have 2 or 3 just in case, failures, success, and things like that. But even if you only have 3 plot points, you basically take instead of having 3 lines right down the row, 1, 2, 3, have your big gate up here. They go through the first plot point, they get all the exposition you need them to have. Your next gate point is here, the next plot point. They can do whatever they want here. They can run around, blah, 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 make things, do things. They're going to eventually, you kind of corral all of your storylines, you kind of point them to your main storyline right here, this next gate. And then this gate, they get through it. Now they know about the next plot point, which is the one down here. And they have all this area here to do whatever they need. Let me show you a better example of that. Here's a map of Deep World Absconders. So they're in a situation right now where they met this beholder who's trapped in a portal. Now, he gave them a mission they didn't have to take, but they have this book that they want to get rid of. It's kind of cursed, and the elf has this book, this magic book that she can't get rid of. She gives it away. She actually sells it to people, and it comes back to her. She makes money just selling it, and it disappears from them, and she gets it back anyway because they're just funny. But she cannot get rid of this book. So this beholder's like, well, I can maybe help you with this book, but I need the blood of this Druger sorcerer. And he lives in the north of this mushroom grove in this other part of the Underdark. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, they don't have to do this, but it's one solution that they have. They could also go back to the wizard who they stole the book from and deal with him, but he's way more powerful than them. So just like, nah, we don't want to do that. This might be a better idea. They need to get a vial of blood from this Druger sorcerer. They don't know why. That's just what this beholder says. If he gets a vial of blood, he can get himself out of this predicament that he's in. They help him, he helps them, kind of thing. They have a choice. They don't have to do this plot. They don't have to go through this gate. This gate is it's an optional gate. It's just a gate that I gave them. That's an option. So they know it's one of their options. And then they also know of a Druger city that's on the east side of the Mushroom Grove. So let me show you this map. This is my map. I know I'm going to put it up here, but I'll put a better vision of the map here. So they're over here in the west. Their plot point, next gated plot point is way up here. And Beck Driprush's of his cave, his tower cave is way up here. That's their next plot point. They don't have to go there. They can do it. As you can see, I have all these little things in the way, all these different little areas that I have, different little Fey. Because this is an area of the Feywild that's been kind of dropped into the Underdark. It's kind of like a demi-plane between the Underdark and the Feywild. That's a whole other thing that they're going to get into in the future. But as you can see, they have a lot of different routes to get to the sorcerer, and a lot of adventure in here. So this is just a map. I just put a map, and these represent little different Fey creatures that have different territories. So they meet one of the lake, and she's like, "Oh, you can come across my lake if you want. It's a lot faster to get there, but you got to go. But you got to kill the pixie next door, because I want her lake too. So if you go kill her and take her lake, and I can take her lake, then you can go across my whole. You go across the whole lake. I'll own the whole lake now, and I can let you go free passage all the way. It's as fast as they want to get there. They can go there. They're like, we really don't want to be on the lake and fighting things like riding a lily pad and stuff. So they don't like that plan. So they're like, yeah, we'll look into that. We'll go to the beach and we'll look into that. They don't want to tell her no, but they're just like, yeah, whatever. So now but then they end up going to the forest and doing their own thing. And now they're actually going to go to fight the Goblin Hill. They want to go kill the Goblin King to get the favor of the Lord of this grove. They think if they kill the Goblin King, he's going to give them more negotiating whatever, because the Lord of the Groves has a problem with these goblins, and they're going to go fight the goblins for the Lord. The Lord's going to help them pass through his territory more peaceably, whatever. But as you can see, I have 2 plot gates. They can go to the Druger city and maybe solve their problem too, or they can go up to the sorcerer, and they don't have to kill him. They just need a vial of his blood. They can convince him. They can kill him. So there's 2 gates I have, but the choice is on how to get to those gates and what they're going to do even when they get to those gates, it's completely up to them. So it's, even though I'm leading them to a certain position, I'm telling them I'm not telling them they have to go there, but that's where I want them to go. That's where the next story progression will be. They can get there any way they want. So it's just it's a difference between railroading and allowing player agency. You're going to the same place, but they do it on their own terms, not on my terms. I'm not telling them you have to do this, to go to this, to do this. You have to fight this guy, you have to fight this girl in the lake. It was hard to get it. Like the opposite. Railroading would have been me saying, oh, this lady owns the lake. You're not going to get past this lake unless you kill her. There's no way to get across this lake without either doing what she wants and killing the next person, or killing this person and getting across this lake. Then you have to deal with the next one. They have the choice of that. We don't like any of them choices. So I just let them. They're on land and they go through the forest. But anyway, so that's just an example. Another example I have. I had this one where there was this insect queen. She was a queen of the insects in this big massive hive that was protecting this temple that they had to get into. So the queen is in front of the temple door, and this big massive hive she built around it, like mile big. Hive, massive hive, that's like a whole city in itself, is around it. She's at the gate. They have to at some point get to the gate, get to her and fight her. But I had this dynamic where she is split into 5 separate entities. And each entity is like an elder brain, kind of like, they're not elder brains, they're just insect brains, kind of from, there was a Frank Herbert book, I don't remember the name of it. There were these intelligent insects that could form and make themselves look like people. And it was a whole big thing anyway. But these brains are part of her. She gets her power from them at being each other, because she kind of separate herself so they could have like warfare with each other, so they could learn tactics and learn how to fight each other. It makes her stronger as her minions fight each other and the brains figure out ways to defeat each other. Makes her stronger. So I gave her 5 different aspects. It was defense, building, tactics, bio warfare, and I forget the last one. Anyway, there was 5 different brains that had 5 different aspects of her. So the players had these little things that they could find the brains. They could tell by the smells. Every brain had an own smell. One had vanilla, one had nutmeg. So they could kind of go through the tunnels. And what the challenge that I gave them is that the queen, if they don't go kill any of these 5 brains, the queen, they're going to fight this queen at this temple. They have to fight her. They're going to fight her at her full strength. But I gave them the option of the five guys. They went and killed those 5 brains, or as many of them as they want. Say they killed a defensive brain. If they killed the defensive brain, the queen lost her defensive ability. The special abilities that I gave her that help her defend herself, she would lose those. She still has armor class and stuff like that, but she had some special abilities that she could build walls and stuff like that. She needed that brain to do that. So each one of the brains that they killed changes the dynamic of the queen. Every time they weaken one, they had to fight through the brains have their own minions, their own insect minions. They had to fight through them. But when they got to the brain and killed it, that made the queen weaker. So then they killed the tactical one. The tactical one had those bugs fought with really strong tactics and they did smart decisions. The biochemical ones had like these chemicals that made them poisoned and weaken and stuff like that. So as they went through and killed the brain, I think they ended up killing 3 of the brains and weakening the queen before they had to fight her. So that's just another example of how I need them to fight this queen at this temple. That's my plot point. That's my gate. That's my plot point, my gate. They have to go through that gate. That's not a railroad though, because they have all these other choices in how they want to go about that. That's their choice. That's the difference between a railroad where I'm like, oh, here's this queen, you got to fight her to get past to your next plot point. That's a railroad. But the options and the strategic and tactical options that they had made this not a railroad. So I hope that gives you guys examples of how not to railroad and what the difference is. Like I said, you have storylines, have story plot points, but make the points. Take your plot point. Say you have a linear story with point of story. That's fine. As a DM, you kind of want that. Your players want a story, but stretch them out. A B C D. Maybe A's here, B's way over here, and there's all kinds of stuff in here they can do. And even though this is your plot point, don't be afraid to change it based on the things they do. This guy, they're going to get more. They might gain 2 levels running around doing side quests, and now you've got to actually boost up your plot point. Your monster has to be stronger because their agency, they wanted to do other random stuff, and just let them do it. That's the thing. People will always like, well, I want to tell my story. I don't want them to just run them around randomly, but why not? Let them run around. That's what they want to do. You're doing the main story. Let them do the side plots. They're going to go to the mountains to explore. Well, I don't know why they want to go there. Well, find out. Let them do it. See what they want to do. Throw some encounters at them. See what they're trying to do. Make that a plot point. Let them make that plot point. Let them write the plot point themselves as they're doing it. You just kind of make kind of mold it to your setting and your game. And every once in a while, foreshadow and steer them towards the plot point. Be like, this thing's gonna happen. This thing's over here. You're not doing. Don't be like, this thing's happening, you're not here, but it's like, oh, another day has passed and the evil's, just kind of keep foreshadowing, whatever. And at a certain point, if they eventually, like I said, at a certain point, they're not going anywhere, you can always move that plot point to them or make it dire. Like, oh, now you like this. We just heard from there's this evil thing going, and there's a smoke in the thing, and in 2 days they're gonna summon this demon, and like they're like, oh crap, now we have to go to this plot point, or this demon's gonna come and hunt us or something. Make a reason why they would want to go fight that. Don't tell them to do it. Give them a reason to do it. That's the opposite of railroading and player agency. So I hope that was helpful. It's just one of my. I know a lot of people ask about railroading, and it's just one of those things that people don't really understand what it is and why it's bad, and even they think railroading is one thing, and it's a subtle difference between telling your story and letting the players discover your story. That's the trick. Let the players discover the story through the world you built. Don't build a story. Build a playground for them to experience your story. That's the best advice I could give for the whole video. Is that don't build a story. Build a playground for players to experience your story. It's a classic literary technique. Show them, don't tell them. Don't tell them that the guy at the end is evil. Show him doing something evil, so they like, oh, that guy, fuck that guy. Don't be, oh, this guy's evil. He's a mean old man. He's a mean evil priest. Okay, whatever. It's like, oh, this priest. You see this orc up on the mountain just throwing children into a fire pit. Like, oh, they don't. So you didn't say, oh, this guy's evil. Like, if you watch Suicide Squad, oh, we're the bad guys. That just sounds stupid. Whereas like, oh, this guy's murdering children. He's an evil fuck. We're gonna go kill him. And there you go. That's your railroading. Anyway, it's just my first railroading video, because I'll probably make more. But I hope that was helpful to anyone. We are Omniverse Gamers. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.